Hey there, Julia here. I just got back from a 3-week vacation in Japan and it was incredible. We were in rural Amori up north, the bustling cities of Tokyo and Osaka, and took day trips to Kyoto, NA, and Nara. The trip also coincided with the Tokyo International Pen Show, Tips for Short, and I picked up some really special items that I finally get to share with you. But I also wanted to debrief a little bit about the show experience, how it was set up, and just some differences I noticed between this pen show in Japan and the pen shows I've attended in the States. So we'll go back and forth. I'll show you a bit of what I picked up at the show while also just talking a little bit about some aspects of the show itself. Okay, let's talk about getting into the show, the entry. It was so organized. So on your ticket for the show, you had a registration time, which is a lineup time, and then you had a time for entry. So the registration time was about 40 minutes and you had to come within that 40 minutes. You would check in at this desk. They would scan your QR code ticket, hand you welcome materials like the map, your wristband for the day, and then you would be ushered into this other room or outside depending on your entry time. But you would get ushered to another area, and then there were lines of 25 people, and you would know which line to stand in because of the number under your QR code. So you would have a line of like 1 through 25, 26 through 49. Yes, that's right, math. And so on. You would stand in those lines. And then when it got close to your entry time, they would separate you based on which floor you wanted to visit first. There was a 4th floor entrance and a 5th floor entrance. And so you would stand in your line. A person would come up to the front of the line and say, if you want to go to the 4th floor, step to your left. And so some people would step to their left and then make a line. They would follow a leader to the 4th floor entrance. And they didn't have to stay on the 4th floor. That's just where they would start the show experience. And so the people left in the 5th floor line would follow their leader up the escalator up to the 5th floor and then would enter the show from there. And then they would go to the next line of 25 people and do the same thing. So the floor, like the crowd control was just A+. The days that I went 2 days, the last 2 days, it never felt overcrowded. I never felt overwhelmed. And there were a lot of people there. And you had space to walk around. You had space at the tables. I had space to reorganize my things because you buy things and then you have to figure out where they fit in a bag and then you have to put your money back. There's always you need space to do these things, and a lot of times at the shows, the more busy shows that I've gone to, you don't have the luxury of space. And then I noticed that the vendors had plenty of space behind them for their personal items, for them to eat lunch, and even side to side, they weren't as crammed as what I've seen here in the States. So that was very interesting. But yeah, overall entry, super smooth, no complaints, crowd control, so good. Okay, let's look first at some of the paper products that I grabbed from Tips. So this first one, I actually grabbed 2, especially being in Japan. I wanted to grab papers I'd never heard of, papers to try with fountain pens. And this Seibundo paper says for all fountain pen users. And I think there was even a little sign above this area that was paper renowned by fountain pen users, that type of thing. So I was never heard of it, let's give it a try. So I actually got 2 of these. These are just little cut memo pages of this paper. And I don't know, let's write on it. For one, this is the Platinum 3776 in the lavender. And I just have a purple Platinum cartridge in here right now. But let's do a little... It's not super smooth or anything, like glassy smooth. Whoa, we are very bright. Hold on. And it feels very nice to write on. Let's do a swatch, because that's always very telling for me. I grabbed Sailor Amamoyo just because I know that this one has a lot of variation. Okay, on the back, very minimal ghosting and no bleed through. Ew, and even in the, I don't know if you can see it, but even in the Platinum cartridge, you can see some of the kind of sheening quality. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna pick up on camera, but trust me, wow. I'm gonna let that dry there, but pretty impressed with that. Segundo, okay. And this company is Nouto, N-O-U-T-O. I also got from them 2 other notebooks. This one, I love that the front cover and the back cover are 2 different colors. And when you open it up, you have a very thick, whoa. So you can see we get a nice textured linen on the inside, but then we have this very smooth grid paper, and the grid's really light and quite small. So I think it'd be great for people that have smaller handwriting. I feel like I don't really have super small handwriting, but this intrigues me. I'm gonna do a little writing sample in the back. Yeah, it's great. Wow. I wonder if this paper is this paper. This feels smoother. That's pretty wonderful. Well, there's that. And then from them as well, I put a lot of stock in this paper, like once I felt it with my hand. Kind of same thing, this is A5 size. This is a little larger than TN size, maybe a little wider. Yeah, a little wider than TN size. And then this is A5. Again, we have the 2 different colors on the front cover and back cover. A darker linen paper here, and then a wider grid. And we also have page numbers, which I always appreciate. And then looks like about a 5mm grid. So nice and wide. And we even have markers for every quarter of the page, which I really like. On both sides, you have little markers to show how to divide the page into quarters. Fairly light grid, same really smooth paper. I really like this. I really like this paper. I want to do a swatch on this as well. And to keep it consistent, I usually do in the back of my notebooks to like test fountain pen friendliness. I'll do a fountain pen test like this, and then I'll swatch Pilot Blue in the back and then grade it. So I'm gonna do that. Can see that this is taking a little bit, taking a little bit to dry, but we are getting lots of variation in here. This looks awesome. This is looking really good too. Wow, I'm excited about this paper. Okay, so this is N-O-U-T-O, Nouto. I also grabbed, I don't remember from where, it says papier plate on the back, but this cute little bunny notebook, maybe like passport size-ish. But the bunny is a cover, so I can refill this, take it out. And I feel like this is a pretty standard size. I don't know if it's passport, but again, very smooth paper. Beautiful for fountain pens. I always like to test the swatch too, just because sometimes writing with fountain pens on a particular paper is fine, but swatching sometimes is a different story. This has the smallest amount of bleed through. Yeah, that looks great. And then I got this, my life list. I can't remember where I got this either. I think maybe Nalto as well, possibly. And it says it's for a make time planner, my life list. I don't know what a make time planner is or anything, but I got it because just all these little frames, and the paper feels nice and fountain pen friendly. And I thought this would be adorable for swatches. What kind of swatches? I don't know, but it's just a few pages and I just thought they would be super cute. All right, just checking back in. This is still drying, but amazing. This is also still drying, but amazing. We're even getting some of that red sheen, which sometimes is a little harder to show with Pilot Blue on some papers. Like, I don't think we'll get the red sheen here, but still looking very good. Yeah, we're getting a little more soak through here, but nothing really bleeding. Okay, let's talk about the show layout and specifically some of the specific areas that they had kind of carved out within the show. So like I said, it was on 2 floors of this kind of trade center, kind of convention center building. And I would say it's kind of like 2 main ballrooms compared to like the shows in the stage, like 2 main ballrooms. In the area, like after everyone's already in and they're not doing the timed entrances anymore, they turned that lineup area into a relaxation station. And this was awesome. So this was an area where they just had tables out and about. There was like a partition to like separate it from the actual show floor. So you would go into this relaxation station, sit at a table and have meetings, go through your things. I used the space to like consolidate my haul and get rid of bags I didn't need and packaging I didn't need. And yeah, it was just nice having that space. People were journaling, people were just admiring the things that they got, and no eating was allowed in this space. So it was just cool to have just this space to sit and take a break, take a breather, think about your purchases or what you think you want to purchase. I thought that was really cool. And I noticed like really throughout Japan, at some of the temple shrines, castles, event areas, that this like relax, chill space is something that I think is typical there. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that someone that organizes a show in the States hears this. We need a relaxation station. They also had ample water stations, which was nice. Always need to hydrate during these things. There was also a show stamp, and so to make up the show stamp, there were 3 different stamping stations that you would go to stamp a part of the stamp, and it would kind of line up to make the show stamp. That was really fun, and it was kind of like a little treasure hunt to find all 3 stamping stations. And then the seminar and workshop space. So this was also a part of these main ballrooms. I think just on one floor, but the area was blocked off with partitions as well. And I only peeked in on CY and Gina's presentation on nibs just because that was the only one in English and Japanese, but it seemed nice. I don't know if it got too loud. I don't think so, but that's my only possible concern there, is being able to hear the speakers if you're in the crowd with the show going on right there. So, but overall the layout was really neat and really thoughtful. For accessories and pouches, so I don't have too much in this category. I have this pouch, which is handmade, and there were so many options of animals and scenes and just so many things. But I grabbed this watermelon one just because I thought when it's closed, it doesn't really give watermelon. It's still a very nice pattern, and then when you open it, I just love the kind of reveal of this. But very cute little pouch. So I will need to translate this, but this is where I got it, Reno on Instagram, if you want to check them out. So yeah, it looks so flat and so small, but you can absolutely stick several pins in here. I don't know if I'm going to be putting my super nice fountain pens in here, but for the sake of demonstration, not that, that's too long. Do a Kakamori. Let's do this glass dip pen. That's 4 pins in there. And it does close with some room to spare. So it's a sleeper. It's very thin, but can hold quite a bit. I think maybe this may be a fun place for maybe these little dip pens or swatching tools or something. Or maybe in my purse, just the purse pins. So other than that, the only other pouch or accessory that I got is this beautiful, hold on, we need to have space for it. Make space, make room for this gorgeous pen case. I cannot pronounce the name of this place, but I'll put it up on the screen. They are out of Taiwan, if I remember correctly, and this is Italian leather. It's a gorgeous plum color. So luxurious feeling. And then inside, even better, this beautiful suede. It feels so soft. I wish you could reach in the screen and feel it. It's so soft. But all the pins are protected. They all have their own little individual slot and a little cover for the top so that they don't rub together when you close the case. And it's just so pretty. I really love it. And it holds 10 pins. Okay, so the show's theme was family cooking. It had this Tabasco sauce / Italian vibe, and I appreciated that some of the vendors really went all in with the theme. Bungu Box had their table set up like a dinner table, kind of like you had your sushi section, you had your tea section, and some of their products kind of went along with that theme, which I thought was really cool. Nagasawa had a gachapon machine, you got a token and you cranked the machine and then you got a little ink, and the inks were themed like Italian dishes. So if you're gonna have a theme, let's stick to it. I love it. And then some of the organizers were even dressed up as chefs, running around. So I just thought that, the theme was stuck to, and I always appreciate cohesion and consistency and all of that. So loved the theme. Okay, let's talk about the pins that I got at the show. I feel like I did okay considering I feel like I didn't bring back too much as far as pins. The first one is actually this Pilot Kakuno. that has been painted with this almost iridescent looking green color. And I think they had like Garage Hobby or something on them, and I just thought it was really pretty and well done. And I love a Pilot Kakuno, so why not? It maybe can go in my little watermelon case. The next pen I got is from Hachimanjia. This is the Platinum 3776 in the Ayame series. I think this is called Iris because the Ayame is the Iris. There's an Ayame festival that happens, and that's what this pen is inspired by. It says that it's Umbrella Sky inspired as well, and that's why maybe we have the umbrella on the nib here. This is a medium nib, as you maybe can see, but it's so gorgeous. The subtle sparkle and the very lilac-y color. But I really enjoyed their approach to this and several other platinums that they had. You would go up to the table, you would say what you wanted to buy and what nib size. Then they would hand you a slip of paper that has all of those details like Ayame and medium. And then it would have a time where you would come back, usually in an hour or two, and buy it. That way people weren't crowding the table. People weren't buying all the pens at one time, and yeah, there were limits on things, and yeah, it just made for a pleasant buying experience. The table, again, was not crowded, and that was so nice to be able to breathe while looking at an item as popular as this one was. Okay, the next pen I got is from Iboya, and there were several pens that I was looking at Iboya, and it took me forever to decide, and I just decided on this one because it reminded me of home. It reminds me of the desert. It reminds me of Cam's aesthetic. And I don't know, it's just kind of funky. It doesn't really line up, and it's weird. It's a little desert ebonite pen. It's so smooth. So classy looking, but it says Iboya, made in Tokyo. Gorgeous. And I think it's a 14 karat nib. I cannot remember the nib size that I got here. I feel like maybe a medium, maybe a fine. No, medium. This next one is so gorgeous. Oh my God. I got this from Paper Tree, and this is the Sailor Pro Gear collaboration with calligrapher Maki Shimano, and I can't believe I got this one. The color was just right up my alley. I didn't know how, I guess, sought after and expensive in the States this pen was, but it wasn't too terribly bad in Japan. So the band has some calligraphy on it. Hold on, I'm trying to read it. I cannot read it. But look at it. Here's the nib. And then the sailor finial, the anchor finial has been replaced with the calligrapher's kind of icon stamp on top, which is a flower. It's gorgeous. And yeah, this has a broad nib, and the color, this like smoky grayish purple for the finial and the section, right up my alley, and then this very pastel lavender. And then finally, in the pen category, not really a pen, and this got some odd looks coming back by TSA, but it got through a-okay. This is an ink mascara by T-Mart. And so how this worked as far as the appointment. So I had to set up an appointment prior to, I thought, to just buy one. I was thinking that they were just popular items and similar to the Hachimanjia situation, like you set up an appointment for a time, you go, you buy your ink mascara, you call it a day. But no, that was not what the process was. So I did have an appointment time, and so you go and there's all of the different barrels that are stacked. There's wood barrels, there's resin ones, there's ones with different treatments, standard ones, premium ones, metal ones. And so you pick that, and then there's different versions of the ink mascara. There's one that doesn't have any line variation. There's an updated one that has a little less line variation, and then there's a version 3 that has the most line variation. And so you choose that. He puts it together right there on the spot with the barrel that you choose and the nib, the top part that you choose, and puts it together, and then asks you to show him your writing angle. And so you do that, and then it's kind of like a nib grind appointment from there. He's grinding, I guess, on this flat area of the coil to get it just right. I honestly have no idea, but it was so fascinating. And then I would check it, and then he would say, you know, do you want a little more nib variation or like line variation? I said, sure. So he ground some more, and this is what I ended up with. It's so interesting. So I'll show you how it works. I have not mastered it yet, but let's do it with the Pilot Blue first, actually. So the idea is you lay it down pretty flat to get just all of that ink just laid down in this very nice swatch, this very nice blocky swatch. However, you can also change your angle. This is where I get crazy because I'm like, how do you do it? You can write with it that way. You can, is it this way? Yeah, you can tilt it up and get a fine line. There we go. And so I can even write with it. My favorite though is definitely this. And you can go thinner, thick to thin. Isn't that wild? Thick to thin. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna have lots of fun playing with inks, swatching in new ways, and just figuring this thing out because it's new and different and really fun to play with. The ink mascara. So I totally forgot one thing, so later Julia's popping in here. And I can't believe I forgot this. This is a beautiful glass pen from Isana Glass Studio. She is amazing, from Okinawa. She was so sweet to talk to and just so passionate about her work. So she had these gorgeous sets of glass pen, muddler, and these super unique little dishes. Let me grab some white paper so you can see this better. Whoa. So I am trusting myself with nicer glass things We'll see how it goes. I was a little nervous about it, but I also wanted to get a glass pen of some sort. So I really love this because it's so smooth for one, but it just reminds me, and I think this was the inspiration as well, as the top surface of water. It's just so beautiful, so smooth. Gorgeous. So I am going to try my hardest to keep this intact. Along with the pen, I got this really cool muddler. You can see that it's a little twisted the way that it's designed. And this is really cool because for shimmer inks, instead of shaking the bottle and getting all those bubbles in the ink, what you do is you stick this down in here. I don't know if the camera is going to pick it up, but I'm going to try. And you just twist it. And the shimmer disperses throughout the ink and you get no bubbles. So that's really fun. And I thought really it'd be fun to kind of play around with swatching as well. And then finally, this little dish here is not necessarily a dish. It kind of has two different planes. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Maybe from the bottom you can see how it's kind of made here, but let's see if I can demonstrate. So let's say we have a wolf point and we want just like a little dab of wolf point to write with here. Maybe a drop of Amamoyoi here. I have not done this yet, so we'll see how this works. You can dip here in wolf point and have that color. Or we can also dip in Amamoyoi. And I think we should have a little gradient. So we have this. Yeah, and then it goes into wolf point. So just a fun way to have two colors in the same little dish without them running into each other, maybe even three. And a way to do gradients as well, which is fun. So yeah, I cannot believe that I forgot to mention this. It was sitting over here in its box, and yeah, even a little swatch on the back side. That's a cool mix. I know that some of this wolf point is mixed in with Amamoyoi, and oh my god, that looks cool. All right, so yeah, back to what we were doing. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the vendors that were there and some of the products that I saw. So overall, there was a variety of vendors. Only some of them were familiar businesses like we see in the States. Galen Leather, Ferris Wheel Press, Esterbrook, yeah. But most of them were new to me, or they only vend at the San Francisco Pen Show. But there was so much ink. So much ink. Tables and tables of ink and ink collabs and brands you don't really see in the States and chromo shading and shimmer and all the things. So much ink. And everything, like the inks were so reasonable. Things were just reasonable as far as prices go. So some of the standout vendors for me were Ken's Night, he made inks, they were awesome. Bungukan Kobayashi, table full of amazing inks. All the beautiful like glass studios and glass dip pen makers, like amazing. Paper Tree, the ink mascara, T-Mart, that whole experience was really cool. On Studio also does glass dip pens, but I did not know that you needed a reservation to like even look at their table. So sadly, I did not get to really look at the product, and I had them on my list. I don't know why I didn't look into what that process was going to be. So Pinot Notte was really neat. They had lots of the really popular platinums that just dropped right before this show, and they had beautiful inks at the table. Hachimanjia, I appreciated their system for buying some of the super popular platinums that came out. And yeah, I just had a really great time checking out all of these new vendors to me. So let's look at what I chose for inks when it comes to the tables and tables of inks that were at Tips. Let's start with the Nagasawa inks that they had in the gachapon machines, like the little crank machines, and you got a surprise. And so Nagasawa had 4 of these show exclusive gacha inks, and they were all on theme with the cooking theme, and I got 3 of the 4. So how this worked was you paid 800 yen to the cashier. They handed you a token that would fit in the gacha machine, and then you would have your ink. So all of these came with a little recipe, a little menu, and a matching sticker of the dish, which is pretty fun. So I'll show you swatches of these 3. We have Caprese, they're all Italian. And that one has like a fun little golden green sheen. Assorted Ham, which is, I don't even know how to classify this color. It's like a corally pinkish brown. And then this Octopus Carpaccio. It's like a wine color with a very slight sheen there. And then also from Paper Tree, this 3 set was a collaboration between Shoko Harada and Marvi, which I think I understood Marvi as a stationery brand in Japan. But this calligrapher, I got to talk to Shoko, and she was so sweet. And she has a whole line of these inks. They're in sets of 3, and they all go with different seasons. I had a hard time choosing, but I went with Wind of Autumn that have these 3 inks in there, and I'll show you swatches of those. Gorgeous. So we have this one, Ironakazi, Kikazi, Karawatashi, and Akinokazi. Very dusty. I love this like dusty pinkish mauve color. Next up, I pre-ordered this. When you got your ticket to Tips, you could pre-order the show ink. They also had a show pen, which I didn't get, and then a little tote bag, which I did get. But this is the show ink. It's called Tips Go. And this is what it looks like. It's a dark red, which I like. I was a little nervous about a red show ink because I don't necessarily love red inks, but this one dries down pretty dark, and I think it'll be lovely in a pen. Then I grabbed 2 inks from Bungu Box. So I have the Kabayaki sauce, and this translated to autumn and winter tea. Those look like this. We have the Kabayaki sauce and the autumn and winter tea. I do, like, I guess a break that's not really an ad break. I did do a swatch party of all of these inks for members of the channel. I am planning on launching memberships for the channel here soon, and that will be the first video that's members only. Kind of go into more detail about the inks, and we swatch them, and it's a good time. So consider joining the memberships when it launches soon. Okay, the next place that I got ink from was Bunguken Kobayashi, and they had just so many amazing inks, like multiple tables full of inks. And so I grabbed two. This Mount Fuji Sunshine, I saw it on their Instagram like the night before I went to Tips, and I was like, yep, want to get something bright, sunny, but also legible, of course. And then Bellflower, which I actually saw at the San Francisco Pen Show this year, but they only took cash, and I am not a person to like just carry around cash, so I couldn't get it. But as soon as I saw it at the Bunguken table, I was like, yep, automatically, yes. So these are the two I grabbed from there. This is what they look like. Here's Bellflower, and then here is Mount Fuji Sunshine. The next place I got ink from was Naoto. If you remember, that is also where I got these awesome notebooks. That ink swatch is dry now and looks amazing. But they also had ink, and this is called Peacock. It looks like it's manufactured by Tono and Limbs, but I mean, I had to get a teal, right? Yes. And so this is what Peacock looks like. It's a beautiful green leaning teal. And then back over to the Nagasawa table, they had a collaboration that I think was a show exclusive with Tono and Limbs called Mushroom Cream. And Nancy, who I was walking the show floor with on that first day, we both kind of like fell for this ink immediately, especially after seeing the writing sample that they had. And it's just like this perfect light-ish brown tan color, but it's super legible, unlike, what was that at Stationery Fest, the Linen Toolbar bubble tea ink. Beautiful, but not legible. This one, legible. Look at it. It's so pretty. Even has these like yellow, greenish undertones. Gorgeous. I think this one was from the next day. I was walking around with my pal Lexa and stumbled on this table, this word ink. I absolutely had to get this. I love the packaging. I love this little illustration here, but the color, look at that. It's like a grayish lavender. May go really well. It does with the Sailor Pro gear. That too. Okay, ooh, we're off track here, but it's fine. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, this is Mount Boku. It is a mountain in Japan as well. Okay, this next ink pretty much took my breath away, and I've never seen anything like it. This is an ink called Osaka from Ink Masaru, and it's so cool. So at first glance, it is like a dark gray, like charcoal night color. However, the shimmer, let's see if I can demonstrate this. It's kind of hard to see on camera and kind of in the swatch I have, but look at the shimmer. It is a multi-color shimmer. It's not like one color shimmer that like shifts like from green to teal or just like a straight up teal shimmer. It has like party shimmer in here, all the colors. So it really does remind me of like a night skyline with all the different colors of lights. Yeah, look at that. So fun. In the swatch, a little harder to see, but it is so cool. All right, so those are actually all the inks that came along with me in my luggage. However, I did get 5 more inks, all from Ken's Night. And thank you to Nancy for offering to take these back with her and ship them to me. So these are really fun. They are all based on songs. He also had just several tables of beautiful inks, just amazing colors. The shimmer of his inks are so subtle. The particles seem so small, and I think that's going to be great for finer nib pens. But let me see, I do have his entire collection here, and they're all based on songs. He has like a Spotify playlist of all the songs, and I don't know, it was just really cool, like a really cool setup. He had a vinyl player playing some of the music at his table, and it was hard to even choose 5. Like I could have went ham, more ham. But these are the ones that I chose. I have By Your Side, which is this is the only one that I kind of know. This is by Sade. Stars Fell on Alabama, When I Fall in Love, The Days of Wine and Roses, and Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. So I'll show you the swatches for those. Here's By Your Side, a lovely brown with like a green, tealish shimmer, which I feel like you don't really see that combination very often. Stars Fell on Alabama, some nice subtle shimmer there. When I Fall in Love, because I'm trying with the pink inks, I was like, something different. So we went with When I Fall in Love. The Days of Wine and Roses. This is gorgeous. I think this would look lovely in the King of Pen that I also got during this trip. And then When Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. Look at that. Gorgeous. All right, I also want to talk about the Japanese preferences that I notice versus what we may get excited about over here in the States and in Europe. So at Tips, everyone was so hype for the wooden pens. Like the lines that were at the tables and they had to kind of do a little extra crowd control, they were for like wood pen makers and not necessarily fountain pens. But I did, peek over to see what all the hype was about, and it was just lovely craftsmanship with just wooden, subtle pens. And I think in general, you saw more excitement for just very sleek, plain or solid pens versus over here, we really enjoy, at least recently, I don't know if it's a trend, but like sparkles and swirls and things like that. Wasn't really as exciting, or wasn't really a thing over there, so I found that to be really interesting. And then from a nib grind standpoint, I was able to get some insight on that. And it seems like most of the nib grind or like the Nibmeister requests are for tuning and smoothing and just making minor adjustments to nibs versus custom nib grinds and being really experimental with the nib. So we kind of like chuck that up to being the Japanese using fountain pens more functionally and as a writing instrument versus being a little more experimental and fun with nibs. So I thought that was really interesting as well, and just something to note when it comes to different preferences. I kind of find the differences fascinating. But yeah, that's my recap of tips and what I picked up while I was there. Special thanks to Nancy for shipping over the music inks to me after I briefly blacked out and bought way too many inks. Thanks to Lexa, Thomas, Bettina, Sophia, and Nancy again for walking the floor with me and just being yourselves. Thanks to Mayuka, Joanna, Veronica, and Marlene for saying hello and for the kind words and just hyping me up. We love to see it. Subscribe for more fountain pen stuff, ink stuff, journaling, and planning. And if you want to see all the other stationery I brought back during the Japan trip, I'll leave part 1 of this right here for you. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.